People have been coming here for almost 400 years, but it didn't begin with an apparition. There was no mysterious light in the sky, no voice from heaven, no famous saint. It began with something almost worthless. A broken piece of pottery, small enough to fit in your hand, easy enough to throw away. Yet that discarded fragment would eventually inspire the construction of a sanctuary and leave behind something extraordinary. Hundreds upon hundreds of ceramic images, each created by someone who believed something remarkable had happened, a recovery, an escape from danger, a prayer answered when hope seemed gone. Today, the walls still preserve their stories. So what happened here? How could a broken fragment found in the Umbrian countryside become the center of almost 4 centuries of devotion? And why? After all this time, do people still come? The answer begins beside a tree. We travel to central Italy, to the countryside near Deruta, a town whose name has been associated with beautiful ceramics for centuries. On a hill known as Colle del Bagno, tradition says a fragment of earthenware was discovered. On it, a tiny image of the Virgin Mary holding the child Jesus. It was not a masterpiece. It wasn't made of gold. It wasn't even intact, just a fragment. According to the story preserved at the sanctuary, the image was fixed to the trunk of an oak tree, protecting it from being damaged or trampled. And for a while, nothing happened. People passed, seasons changed, the little image remained. Until 1657. That year, according to local tradition, the fragment became connected to an event that would transform this quiet place forever. A local merchant had a wife who was seriously ill. The situation frightened him, and like countless people throughout history, when medicine, reason, and certainty seemed to offer too little, he prayed. He went to the image attached to the oak and asked the Virgin Mary for help. What happened afterward became the founding story of Madonna dei Bagni. According to the sanctuary's tradition, his wife recovered. Was it divine intervention? A natural recovery? Coincidence? Centuries later, we cannot scientifically reconstruct what happened inside that home, but we do know what happened next. The merchant believed his prayer had been answered, and gratitude demanded a response. He left behind an ex-voto, a visible testimony saying in effect, "Something happened to us here." And then other people started coming. News traveled through the surrounding villages. People began visiting the oak. Some were ill. Some feared for their families. Some came carrying requests that history would never record. And according to local devotional tradition, people began returning with stories of favors and graces they believed they had received. The tree accumulated offerings. The place became a destination. Eventually, devotion grew so much that a sanctuary was constructed there in 1687, incorporating the oak and the sacred image into the building itself. But something else was happening, something uniquely connected to Deruta, because this was a town of ceramic artists. And instead of simply telling their stories, people began painting them. Walk into Madonna dei Bagni and look at the walls. This is where the story becomes extraordinary. Hundreds of ceramic tiles, not identical religious decorations, stories, scenes of sickness, accidents, danger, families, children, people lying in beds, people surviving moments they believed should have ended differently. And again, the same idea, a grace received. Over roughly 3 centuries, the sanctuary accumulated more than 700 ceramic ex-voto, creating not only an extraordinary record of popular devotion, but also a visual history of local life and of Deruta's changing ceramic techniques. Think about what that means. 700 objects, 700 decisions to return, 700 attempts to say, "I don't want what happened to me to be forgotten." And that's when our mystery changes. Because perhaps the most interesting question isn't whether every story represents a miracle. It's why so many people felt compelled to leave evidence of their gratitude behind. We need to be careful here. An ex-voto is not scientific proof of supernatural intervention. It tells us what a person believed had happened. That's different. A recovery may have had a medical explanation. An accident may have ended well because of chance. Memories can change. Stories can grow. History demands that we distinguish testimony from proof. But dismissing the tiles entirely would also miss something important. Because these objects are real, The people were real. Their fear was real, and so was their conviction that something had happened worth remembering. The ex-voto therefore becomes something fascinating. Not laboratory evidence of miracles, but physical evidence of human belief across generations. And that may actually make them more interesting. Because one tile can be dismissed as a story, 10 become curious, hundreds become history. And then there is the oak. The sanctuary wasn't simply constructed near the place where the story began. The tree associated with the original image was incorporated into the sanctuary itself. So inside this church stands a physical connection to the beginning of everything. A broken ceramic fragment, a tree, one frightened husband, one recovery interpreted as a grace, one offering of gratitude, then another, and another, until eventually, a building had to rise around the story. There's something almost impossible about the scale of that transformation. Not physically impossible, humanly improbable. Something destined for the rubbish became precious. Something almost nobody noticed became a destination. And generations later, people still walk through the same doors. Perhaps we've been asking the wrong question. Was the merchant's wife miraculously healed? We cannot prove that today. Were every one of the events depicted on these hundreds of tiles supernatural? We cannot know that either. But there is another phenomenon we can see. A story survived for almost 4 centuries. Through wars, disease, political upheaval, scientific revolutions, generations born and buried. The people depicted on the oldest tiles disappeared long ago. Their homes may be gone. Their names may be forgotten, but the moment they were desperate enough to pray and grateful enough to return is still hanging on a wall. Perhaps that's what makes Madonna dei Bagni extraordinary. It turned private fear into collective memory. So why do people still come? Some ask for help, some come to give thanks, some are believers, others simply want to see one of Italy's most extraordinary collections of popular religious art. But every visitor encounters the same silent question: what would make you come back? If someone you loved recovered when all seemed lost, would you call it coincidence, medicine, luck, grace? And if you believed your prayer had been answered, how would you make sure the moment wasn't forgotten? The people of Deruta had an answer. They painted it on ceramic and placed it on a wall. This story began with something broken, and perhaps that's why it has survived. Because almost everyone who came here came carrying something broken too. A body, a family, a fear, a hope. The little ceramic image didn't promise them certainty. The sanctuary doesn't provide scientific proof for every story painted on its walls. But those hundreds of ex-voto reveal something deeply human. When people believe they have been given back something they thought they were about to lose, they remember, and sometimes they return. That's why nearly 4 centuries later, the title of this story remains true. They still come, not because history has answered every question, but because hundreds of people before them left behind the same message. Something happened to me, and I needed someone to remember. This is Divine Eternal Stories. Here we don't ask you what to believe. We follow the evidence, the history, the traditions, and the unanswered questions, and leave the final judgment to you. If stories like this fascinate you, subscribe. Because hidden across Italy are sanctuaries, relics, and forgotten places carrying mysteries that most of the world has never heard about. And we're going to find them, one by one. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't hidden. They're simply waiting for someone to look again.